Very good afternoon and very good morning. If you're in Europe, good evening and good night. We remind everybody that today's event will be live streamed and we have simultaneous interpretation into English and Spanish here in the room as well as in our Zoom transmission. Here, those of you that were here yesterday and those that are following us online, welcome to the municipality of Envigado. It's a pleasure to receive everybody on this day two for Cities Talk Nature, organized within the Interlace Project, Cities for Nature, and organized by the City of Envigado, the Research Institute, Alexander von Humboldt, and United and Local Governments PLG. As we told you, the Interlace Project is an international cooperation in order to restore and connect urban ecosystems in Latin America and Europe. It unites 21 partners, including 3 Latin American cities and 3 European cities that have been working since 2020 together with universities, different networks of cities, in order to develop different governance mechanisms for design and implementation and monitoring of nature-based solutions and managing biodiversity. Today, we will be focusing on rethinking urban bonds and rural bonds for the people and for biodiversity. And as you know, this is the title of our conference today, Rethinking the Link Between Urban and Rural Areas for People and Biodiversity. I wanted to thank Urario Espinazo Marquez, our Mayor McKenna Davis, from the Ecologic Institute of Berlin and coordinator of the Interlace Project, Sarah Hufflich, Director of Learning in the Global Cities Network for UCLG, Paola Andrea Morales Ramirez, leader in environmental planning and territorial planning from Alexander von Humboldt Institute, and obviously the 21 partners that are participating in this project, like mayors, council members, cities, and different organizations that are joining the community of practice between Cities for Nature. I also greet the different public servants of the ecosystems of biodiversity department and other different municipal civil servants. To begin our protocol, I invite McKenna Davis to speak with us, the coordinator of Solutions Based on Nature project from the Ecologic Institute of Berlin and coordinator of the Interlace project. Welcome, McKenna.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to be doing mine in presentation in English, but just very quickly in the beginning, we'll hear more a little bit later about Interlace and the project and what our activities are. But first, I wanted to say a very, very warm welcome also from our side, from Ecologic Institute. I have the pleasure of being the coordinator of this amazing project with the partners that you see in this room that hopefully you've had the opportunity to meet over the last days. And in particular, I would like to thank Envigado and the mayor for being here and the Secretary of Environment, all of the partners that have co-organized this event with UCLG, as well as Humboldt for the last days of our conference. It's been really amazing to come here to see Envigado in person, to get to know the sites after the last years of reading about, writing about, and learning about this project through our partners. I really have a lot of impressions. I'm still processing all of them from the last days, but we had a beautiful excursion yesterday, really getting to know the culture, getting to know the people, and most importantly, also getting to know the nature. We had incredible dancing, food, music, but also walking through the forest, having a great presentation by Augustine, learning about the wildlife and everything that was there. So a very, very warm welcome from my side. Thank you very much. And I'll be on stage a little bit later to talk about Interlace. So thank you very much as well.
Well, thank you, McKenna. Now I wanted to invite Sarah Hufflich, Director of Learning for Cities and Local Governments, to give us some welcoming remarks. Thank you so much. Well, it's a pleasure to greet so many people today with the commitment for nature-based solutions, not only in this room, but all of you that are registered online, which is 185 people, and we are super proud of that, that this topic, which is such a key issue for cities, is actually receiving the attention that it deserves, an incremental attention in the different international settings and spaces like us. we, the networks of cities and local governments, we are a global network, the largest global network of cities. We are going to work many of these issues and take this to the UN because the global agenda is constructed at the local level. We know that this is very important, that with the challenges that we have at this particular moment with climate change, perhaps it's the largest of these challenges, the most severe, and it is very, very satisfactory to see how cities such as Envigado, but also all of our other cities that have joined forces to share their experiences are beginning to work with nature as a partner, a development partner, as an inspiration for development, urban development. And this can be seen in Latin America very, very specifically here because Latin America obviously is partnered with biodiversity. It's an associate to the lungs of the world. You are the partners of the wealth of different species, the most enormous species, and everybody is looking at this, how biodiversity can actually become an element and a partner for development itself. In that sense, obviously, I wanted to congratulate the mayor, Braulio Espinosa Marquez, for that administration, but also for allowing his team, obviously led by Jose Nicolas Arenas and Agustin and the entire team, the environmental department, to allow them for allowing them to do this work because we notice that this is continuous work, 5, 6, 10 years of administration insisting on promotion of ecosystems and protected areas. So in that sense, I come with four messages, Mayor, to hopefully your next mayor will continue these tasks. The first is to actually take this message of appropriation that we've actually received yesterday from the organization which organizing. We haven't seen this in other cities. Really, the community is very organized, and they're a partner. The community is an actual co-manager of all of this ecosystemic work. But we have to keep this with pay more attention to this, and it has to be had. We have to have more awareness, and obviously, the next mayor probably, hopefully, will continue this process. The second element is the political element that we know that Antioquia has also done very important work with the climate emergency. But here you have the metropolitan space, which is a proper space to do conservation work and protection areas, and a land use plan which is diverse. And we are going to probably listen to this much more. Also with Paola, which is an expert, and that helps us quite a lot on these processes via the Humboldt Institute. The third is making visible our water corridors in the cities. That is not obvious sometimes. We know that Medellin and Envigado have done this, yes, for many years, that the river, we actually visited the river, but the river continues to be the key element for life and also because of death as well, in the case if we don't cater to it. So water resources are elements that are key to communicate through to the entire world how you're working on these issues because this is what moves most cities that we hear here and that are actually uniting their forces to these projects that have promoted in the interlace project. And fourth, improving what already exists, improving. We've seen many different neighborhoods. We've seen lots of vegetation. Nonetheless, we also know about the problems of islands, which are increasing as well. In that sense, vegetation and nature, once again, are our best partners to combat this. We've seen this in the execution. We actually were able to visit the laboratory of Envigado, which is an inspiration for all of us. And we really thank you for doing this together with the Humboldt Institute. And you've used the Interlace project in a way which is beautiful, really, not only at a scientific level, but also at an educational, environmental education level, and at arts level. Yesterday, we actually saw an inspiring and shows. So thank you so much. Congratulations, Mayor. You have actually taken advantage of this project, and we're super happy to be Interlace's project partner. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, Envigado, as a model city, model of conservation, participates in the interlace model with the objective of restoring and conserving a strategic ecosystems supported by international and national institutions, in addition to support from cities and institutions that provide us with their collaboration to make environmental projects reason that is socially responsible. Therefore, I would like to invite you to the open inauguration of the event, our Major Braulio Espinosa Marquez. Welcome, Mr. Mayor. Well, good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome those of you who are visiting us from different countries. Also, those of you visiting from Colombia. I hope that you feel at home, and Envigado indeed is quite happy. Again, the municipal administration and the local communities are quite happy to have you here today. And in this brief greeting, inauguration greetings, I would like to first send greetings of some friends that you're going to see on video. Very special greetings from some friends that I believe speak for nature. This is in the municipality of Envigado. This was taken with the cameras that we have to supervise in real time our wildlife. This is a couple of them, and this is not frequent. This is not frequently seen in different municipalities and metropolitan areas, especially populated areas. But here we have live. Here we have wildlife corridors, which fills us with happiness, and also we have here a very playful friend. And this used to be a chicken. This is in our rural side of Envigado in the small villages outside of. This is where we have our wildlife corridors. Here we have another video. This is an oxalot. Okay. I wanted to again greet you and to show you what's the result of many years of work by our organized communities in the municipality of Envigado. This is the result of the work of groups of citizens that have worked to protect our rural side, our forest, and our wildlife corridors. However, during my greetings, I would also like to pass on a message. You saw this puma hunting for chickens in our rural side. And the key specific message for Colombia and for the rest of the world is we have to ask who is invading whose territory, because it is indeed us who invaded or who invade the wildlife corridors. It is not them invading us, it is us invading them. And at the end, it is the pumas are frequently hunted by farmers and other people in the countryside, but we have to focus on that. We, we 40% of our territory in Envigado is protected territory. We are the only municipality in Colombia that officially and uh, legally based on municipal agreements, has 40% of its territory protected. Again, we're the only ones, and no building process can take place in those protected areas. And this is economic burden because those properties, those lands cannot be developed. But at the same time, it's a tremendous capital and a tremendous wealth for future generations. And that's where we have to clearly have a political will to make long-term decisions. Climate change, climate change is not a future story. Climate change, its causes and consequences are present today. We have no more time. We are out of time. And we are living, today we're living the neglect and the lack of decision making that took place in the past. Today, our farmers have huge incentives with regards to their crops in our municipality specifically. And recently, we had two hail storms, the two strongest hailstorms in the past 40 years. And those two hailstorms destroyed more than 60% of our crops in our countryside. As a consequence, that's a consequence without a doubt of climate change, and that's a consequence of what we have done as human beings in our planet. So again, from Envigado, we would like to send this message, and we are sending this message because we already made decisions and we are advancing. And we are sending this message because we still have a long way to go, and much to learn from all of you. Each inch, each centimeter of the planet that we take care of has an effect on the planet. Any strategic impulse, project, plan, anything that is undertaken by an organized community or a local government, without a doubt, has a positive result if we know how to develop it. Again, going from the small changes can lead to huge transformations in the planet. And again, that is my greetings from you, my official message to you. And I hope that that today this project is very productive for you. I would like to thank all the organizers. I'm very proud to have you here today. And I hope that you enjoy our gastronomy. Why not? Uh, you can enjoy our drinks at night, enjoy our music, city, our Christmas lights. We are the first municipality in Colombia to turn on its Christmas lights. In Envigado, Christmas lasts for 2 months. Santa Claus gets really tired when he comes to Envigado. And I would also like to let you know that those Christmas lights that you will see was built by men and women who are heads of households who live in Envigado, and they work on this throughout the year. And it is also people from Envigado who installs those Christmas lights. We're modeling Colombia for this Christmas lights preparation and setting up. Also, please go to our market, Market Square. It was opened again this year, and it is now considered the best market square in the country. And we have local products from local producers. And please walk through our municipality, our our urban and rural areas, walk through them, walk our neighborhoods that are full of green. And we have worked on that, and we believe that we still have much work to do. When we go to other places different from Envigado, we know or we see that we're doing well with regards to having an Envigado that is greener, an Envigado that protects the wildlife. May God bless you, and our hands are open to welcome you again. And this academic event is now open. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, McKenna. Thanks, Sarah, for sharing your words with you. Now, I would like to invite McKenna Davis again so she can begin with her presentation today. Thank you.
So good morning again. I have the pleasure of speaking twice today, so lucky me. I would like to give you guys a brief introduction about Interlace, the project that has the pleasure of being behind this event today, of bringing you all together and bringing all of this inspiration together for our conference today. So I'm going to start by introducing the project. Again, thank you very much for hosting. To Envigado, we want to showcase a little bit today about the wonderful work that Envigado is doing, but also the other partners in our project and the other partner cities. So first, just to give you an introduction, Interlace is a project really aiming to strengthen urban ecosystem restoration within Europe and Latin America, especially the capacities and the exchange between these two areas. And we had the pleasure yesterday of having the excursion. I hope that many of you could join, but for those of you who can't, here's a couple of impressions. We had the beautiful walk around Selape. We saw a lot about the local culture. We had great warmth from the people in Envigado and the beauty of the society, really embracing, it's a little bit high. I don't know if we can bring it down just a little bit, but I felt like we were really embracing these kind of three central pillars that we have in Interlace. Thanks a lot. Which is about nature, places, and people, and bringing these concepts together. Whoop. So that was the evening portion, which was amazing. The local dancing. I don't know why this is not. Okay, thank you. So just to give you an idea who we are, we're 20 partners spread across 11 countries. We really have a really large diversity of views, of partners, of cities, of cultures that are joining into this project. We have 11 countries represented with 6 partner cities across Colombia, Ecuador, Costa Rica, Germany, Poland, and Spain. So really bringing this kind of intercultural experience, understanding of nature, understanding of protection, facing different challenges, all together in a communal space to exchange, to learn, to build capacities about these topics. But maybe we can go there. To the next slide is who we are, just to give you an impression if you see us in the room. We're going to have lots of time to exchange later as well today. So a little bit more about the project itself. What are we actually aiming to do? What is the ambition behind this event today and other similar events that have been organized in the last several years? So we're really trying to empower, to equip different European and Latin American cities in particular, but also beyond with our resources that we're producing in the project to try to restore and rehabilitate their ecosystems, both within the urban areas and also the peri-urban areas bordering on these cities, as we have today the topic integrating this rural and urban areas and linking these together, trying to make cities more livable, more resilient, and more inclusive for the population. Specifically, we're really trying to strengthen this collaboration between European and CELAC communities. We're focusing, as I said, on ecosystem restoration and rehabilitation. And the main thing that we're really trying to do is this participatory engagement. So we heard yesterday a lot about the engagement programs, about integrating with the schools. I'm going to share a little bit more what we're doing on a political level as well, but really bringing in the diversity of stakeholders that are all interested in and obviously have some vested interest in and value in preserving the local environment. We're also trying to build on existing knowledge and experiences, recognizing that the Latin American cities as well as the European cities both have a lot of experiences, different perspectives, different information, different knowledge to offer, and trying to really have the spread of information go in both directions, learning from each other, learning amongst each other, and learning with each other about how we can really address these objectives and try to improve the management of green spaces within our urban areas. And also we're trying to really work together with governments, as we had the beautiful city of Envigado here and the representation of the mayor as well, showing the dedication and the Secretary of Environment to the activities we're doing here. Trying to increase this capacity, trying to really build knowledge, build strength, build the resources to give decision makers the power to act for the protection of the environment, as we heard a minute ago about the importance of this. And we're trying to also utilize our beautiful city network partners to really utilize their networks that exist already, the communities of practice, bring in wider actors. We're going to have a signing later of new cities joining our engagement process here, which is really exciting, taking a vow, taking an oath to try to really take action towards preserving and protecting their urban environments. And then finally, reaching beyond the project, trying to really integrate the knowledge that we've learned into the main decision-making beyond the politicians, but also in the actions of the community and the actions of the schools and other stakeholders. So maybe the next slide, please. Sorry, it's not working. Thank you. So just to give you an impression across our 6 cities about nature-based solutions, we're going to hear a lot more about what this means later. Obviously, it's a shared understanding about working with nature for the benefits of humans and society, but also especially of biodiversity as well. But we know that it really has to respond to local needs, that there's different cities facing different challenges. We have different cities facing flooding, looking at things in terms of access to green spaces, in terms of mental health and well-being. We had yesterday this amazing, let's say, meditative experience of going in Sulape and how refreshing that was for all of us. But while nature is, of course, at the core of the project, we also, again, bringing this idea back to nature, places, and people, we really want to work together with the communities and for the communities. So we heard yesterday a little bit about some of the school activities going on. We have arts programs, community engagement programs. We have a Minecraft that you'll hear more about later. We have walks going on. We have loads and loads of what we call co-creation, so working together with different stakeholders to co-develop and co-create the solutions that we're moving towards to really respond to those needs of the local communities and the stakeholders that we're trying to address. So each of the interlay cities has its own local stakeholder group that they're really working together with, both directly in immediate activities, but also for the awareness raising part of the project, trying to really test and validate what we're doing in the project, making sure that's really relevant for those audiences that we're trying to address, and responding again to those needs. So we're also producing a number of resources. All of these are available. Some are done now, some are still coming in the last year of our project, but are available on our website. We have a lot of webinars discussing these as well, so lots of resources to help you learn more about the topic of nature-based solutions within the Latin American and European context. We're developing right now a free online education course trying to support decision makers to plan and think about nature-based solutions when developing the cities. We have different business models of nature-based solutions we're going to hear more about later. We're developing, in very exciting news, in a collaboration between OPLA and Humboldt Institute. Two of our partners, we're developing a repository or a database of nature-based solutions that's going to be available, bringing lots of different resources together, focusing on the CELAC context here, which we're really excited about. We're also working together with our cities to actively co-create governance instruments, so really leaving a legacy beyond the project, trying to decide what's necessary in those cities and create a roadmap to really get there. And to spur action through impulse papers that we're developing as a motivation and inspiration. And finally, we have a resource of what we call the Urban Governance Atlas, which is showcasing different examples of policy instruments supporting nature-based solutions from around the world, over 250 good practice examples there, which we really invite you to explore. It's a lot in a short time, but the project has been incredibly busy and we still have one more year to go, so we have a lot more coming up as well. And I really invite you to discuss with our different partners in the room here. If you have any questions, feel free to approach me later. And again, a really warm thank you and wishing you a wonderful day at this really great conference today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, McKenna. And next, I would like to invite Adi Carrera. She's going to continue next. Welcome, Adi. Well, welcome everyone once again. Good evening, good afternoon, those of you online. Now we're going to continue with a panel in which Natalia Burgos is going to act as moderator. In the panel, we're going to speak about the main topic of this conference, precisely rethinking urban-rural linkages for people and biodiversity. I would like to invite Natalia Burgos, despite the fact that she's a young, well, basically a young girl, or almost a young girl. She has tremendous experience. She has collaborated with the National Planning Department of Colombia. She's also worked for the Mayor's Office of Bogota, and now she works as a researcher for the Institute for the Ecological Institute of Berlin. Natalia, please, the floor is yours. Good morning, everyone. I would also like to say that I look a lot younger than I really am, but I'm quite happy to be here especially because this is my country. Again, this is my country that we're working for with interlays. Quite valuable work. So first of all, thank you. Thank you for your collaboration. And I hope that you enjoy this panel. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee, the committee that organized this event that we have enjoyed for this week. Thanks to the Envigado team, to the mayor, to Agustin, to all the organizers, to Joanna, we can definitely see all the work that you do and the love that you feel for all that you do. Thank you, Juan Carlos, for organizing. Thank you to the consortium team, because without our joint work, this would not be possible. Without any further extension of my introduction, today we have some very interesting panel members from which I believe we're going to be learning a lot. I would like to invite first Agustin Gutierrez Henao. Agustin is the Director of Ecosystems and Biodiversity for Envigado. Agustin is one of the main members of our consortium, and we have been learning from Agustin for a few years. So we're quite happy to have you here, Agustin. Welcome. I would also like to invite Paula Andrea Morales Ramirez of the Research Institute of Biological Resources, Alexander von Humboldt. Welcome. And our third panel member is the international chair, David Barden of the Norwegian Institute of Investigation on Nature. Well, as you know, based on the title of the panel, we're going to be speaking about the urban-rural bonds. Today, when we think about cities, we think about gray, or we think about densely populated gray areas, and sometimes when we analyze the territory, we forget that the territory is the balance between the territory and the rural side, and sometimes it is difficult for us to work on collectivity and coherence with regards to our planning, zoning actions. Also, uh, through the interlace project, we're thinking as to how nature-based solutions are a tool that is going to bring us to action to improve our land zoning in a more coherent way. Our panel members are going to do brief presentations. Juan Carlos is going to help me with the times. Each one of them has a maximum of 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes, they're going to present our reflection through which they will start, and then we're going to have a conversation. The idea is to have a dynamic session. And again, the idea is to have a conversation, to take questions from the audience. And the more that we dialogue and share, the more we'll learn. So again, without any further ado, I would like to welcome Agustin so he can do his presentation. So you're going to be moving the slides, changing the slides for me. Thank you. We have some new participants today from Ecuador who were not with us during yesterday's tour. As the mayor mentioned before, and as Sara clearly mentioned as well, yesterday we tried to show you what we are managing and what we believe is the solution for Envigado and for any other city to remain resilient or with environmental sustainability based on basic concepts that are part of the Interlace project. connectivity of the areas, connectivity of people, connectivity of institutions, connectivity of the urban, of the rural, of the complex. Yesterday we mentioned in one of the visits, and we also observed yesterday on a printout that is behind the panel members. There we can see the city. On that poster, we can see the city observed from one of those protected areas behind the camera. So Envigado discovered those needs, heat islands, too much urbanism, lack of connectivity. And in our first attempts in 2000, this was our land zoning, ecosystems disconnected, important ecosystems, but we didn't have a clear planning to preserve them. And based on that, in the next land zoning plan in 2011, we created a model strategy which has been or is quite satisfying for us, and that is about protected areas. In other words, Envigado understood that what we had not been able to control through our land zoning or through planning, we needed to do it by taking a look as to what's functional and ecosystemic. And we did this by saying that our forest and our remaining water networks could be protected through our or through a local system of protected areas. In 2016, we were able to achieve this strategic project through Agreement 09 of 2016 from our municipal council. And through that, 40% of Envigado was included in this system of protected areas. And please notice that this is in the most noticeable colors. Outside, we have the water network, which is in blue, and that's not part of the system, and which mandatorily have to be conserved. Eventually, Envigado is going to change its land zoning plan again, and that is an opportunity to consolidate this system with this straight protection soils, and with that, we will increase uh, from 40% to an additional area that could be included in the SILAP or the protection system, with areas that can act as buffers of the system as well. In here we can see that to change our land zoning plan, and for this change that we conducted in 2019, we consolidated the protected area as a straight protection soil. It sounds like the concepts are the same, but it is not the same. Basically, this clarifies that the system is a protected soils that has to be conserved. And that is a good recommendation for municipalities. Again, ecological structures, forests, protected areas represent a good strategy to consolidate what's basic with regards to resilience in the territory. Next slide, please. With regards to the urban interlace, well, its objective is to promote Envigado. In 1,500 hectares, we have 21 hectares that have been already declared as a protected area. It's the X that we see on the map. Yesterday we were there next to the unknown and Antillas neighborhood. Again, is this green X in the middle. And we saw that protected system, and we saw that it provides a tremendous environmental services, being able to walk through the forest, motivating conservation, observing wildlife and so on, but also to the left we can see this denomination Cerro Tutelar. This is basically a guardian hill, and if you look at it, here we have 212 approximately hectares that are about to be declared a protected area. What that means is that 50% of Envigado's urban area it's going to become a protected area. And remember that the global objective is to have at least 30% of municipalities as protected area. Envigado has 40% on the rural side, and we can possibly reach a little bit more, close to 20% in our rural side to be part. Envigado recommends these 6 different items with intensity, and we would like to have more resources to um, promote these things by working on these projects with interlays with the Humboldt Institute and so on, allow us to grow. So there's these basic things. The first one is monitoring wildlife in Envigado. In other words, we need to know what wildlife we have to know where we are going in terms of our ecological evolution and to motivate our communities and for our administrators to understand all this. That's the first recommendation. Second recommendation is to mitigate conflicts. Mitigate conflicts is quite important for perhaps roads where a wildlife is run over, in housing developments where wildlife cannot go in because of electric fences or barbed wires, and we change the dynamics of the different corridors through new roads and so on. Third thing is forest rangers. We need a group that motivates and shows biodiversity, that invites people to restore biodiversity. Fourth suggestion is to restore ecosystems. We need to speak to the owners of these ecosystems. 90% of the owners of our protected areas are owned by private owners. David is going to explain a little bit how Norway, or what Norway does to enable cities to be connected. Again, they have a tremendous strategy in Norway, 3 years of work, and they continue evolving it. So our municipal planning department also began using investment incentives to improve housing developments, but Norway's model can also help us connect cities. The next suggestion is to promote citizen engagement. The Comedal, zone leaders, Esmeralda leaders, again, all these community leaders are quite basic. It is basic for them to participate and to help us. And last suggestion is interinstitutional articulation. If Humboldt Institute had not met Envigado and knew about its purposes, we would not be working with interlays and we would not be receiving resources from EPM. They are a tremendous partner. They have helped us identify different corridors, including feline corridors. We have tremendous results of biodiversity with regards to the different trees in the forest. And uh, this dossier is mapping this biodiversity, and it also tells us if it coincides or not with the observations that we had made. Working with them is fundamental. If not, Envigado as a municipality would not be conducting this event. Why is biodiversity important? Here we can see Envigado's figures. In green, this is what we knew in 2015. Biodiversity that was estimated at 600 species between flora and fauna that we knew about. And then in 2022, you can see the figures. Now we are aware of 1,378 species of flora and fauna that we know exist in our territory. And there we include very important data, felines, feline corridors, and shrubs and other figures that are not updated there. Right? Important tools, photo detecting cameras are key because they enable us to work with the community. We provide cameras with the community so they can install the cameras so they can again learn themselves and motivate themselves to conserve. So seeing a mayor that is happy, seeing these movements is a tremendous advance. It's not frequent to see that. Again, it's not frequent to have a mayor that shows a video of a puma eating a chicken. So that indicates a tremendous advancement with regards to awareness raising. Here, these are corridors. Again, 4 out of 6 lines in Colombia are present in Envigado. Envigado with 7,900 hectares again houses 4 of the 6 lines. So that is tremendous. Next slide, please. That is the Leopardus tigrinus. Again, we have learned about all these animals, Leopardus tigrinus, pumas, and so on. And with them, again, in each one of these boxes is where we have had appearances of these animals through time. Again, diversity in Envigado, we consider different ecosystems, but again, it's not only Envigado. We're speaking about the regional now. So the regional is also a priority, and Interlace in its matters wants to promote the south of the Valley of Aburrá. There is a round table for this. Itagüí, La Estrella, Caldas, Envigado, and us are working so we can develop all this together. Again, having five mayors working together is difficult in the world, it's difficult in Colombia, but it's more difficult in Antioquia. So this is what we're working on. Again, how to manage the different corridors. In our municipality in November, we installed 100 cameras of photo detection every 100 meters. This was done with the help of Humboldt and APM, also with Code Antioquia, and that enabled us to gather the following results: more than 19,000 captures. And this connectivity map, what you see in dark brown, is in detail, the more indicates in detail the most functional corridors for those felines. But again, what we see in green is Envigado. What's outside the green is Caldas, Sabanetas, Medellin, and El Retiro municipalities. In other words, this is a very important task of Core Antioquia, area metropolitana. All of you guys, this is the priority of our conservation project. Interlace, we can also work through impulse papers to let others know what's fundamental. Again, we need much of this data, but what's fundamental, we have learned them in this 4 years of development. What's fundamental is biodiversity, connectivity, and working together. Again, monitoring work with Humboldt, they are the experts in this topic. So we have these colors, and we discovered this Sardosium species. Uh, Here we also conduct technical processes with veterinarians, biologists, forest experts to make decisions. We do not simply capture animals and release them in the corner. No, use we have to use the data. We have to be more rational. So biodiversity, which is the base of conservation in the planet, makes sense. Next slide, please. This is what's lost on the road. This is one of our logos in our system of protected areas. Again, what you see on the bottom right is our logo, and we want the community to understand our logo figures with regards to animals being run over. More than 30 animals are run over through different roads. And again, we can see all these sites where biodiversity has been lost. Leopards, tigrinos, birds, reptiles, and so on, run over. So this has enabled us to show or to develop maps where biodiversity loss is tremendous. This is why strategies such as the one that David is about to present to us are fundamental. How to build structures where biodiversity is not lost. It is basic for our administrators, for our planners to use this type of tools that do not allow us to get lost. Our biodiversity policy, we wanted to consolidate it in this administration before December. Unfortunately, we are delayed, and complying with the different requirements to make it public takes a lot of time. Yes, the information is great, but we want this biodiversity policy to guide our municipal majors and communities and so on, so we can work on these five things: strategic ecosystems, biodiversity, engagement, and consolidating the SILAPI as a true model of conservation for Envigado. It's regional, again, creating articulations again. What we mentioned, the five municipalities should work together. This is the Valley of Aburra. What you see? It's an inspiration. What you see around me are the different ecosystems of Valley de Aburra, beginning with Barbosa, with David and Paula are, and ending in Caldas. So this represents a mountain of biodiversity. We people are sitting here, but biodiversity is behind us. Thanks for this beautiful inspiration board. So 5 cities, 3 very important matters for the management of these 5 municipalities. The first one is that we have to gather and integrate cartographic information in the 5 municipalities. You can see to the bottom right is what is strategic. Envigado it has a SILAPE, Caldas doesn't have a SILAPE. Secondly, we have formulated projects for the municipal area has a project on biodiversity for $300,000, and that's approximately 2 billion Colombian pesos to work on. What I just mentioned, and the other thing is to be able to work jointly. to have the trust and to know that it is possible. I apologize if I took more time, and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agustin. As always, very interesting listening to you, and we will have an opportunity later on to ask more questions for the public in general. There are some little pieces of paper that we're passing out just in case somebody has a question. Please write your questions down. Keep those in mind for the different panelists. Write their names, and just in case we don't have enough papers, we can also raise our hands and participate later on, obviously. So think about your questions. And well, now I have the pleasure of inviting Paola Andrea Morales Ramirez, which is leading the research group about land zoning plans at territorial planning and environment together at the Humboldt Institute. Paola, please come to the stage and welcome. Very good day to everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here in this space. Dad has such a diversity of cultures in a way of managing biodiversity in the territory and appropriation and also working together. And congratulations to this group for all of the different bonds that were created and for all of those great things that were achieved during this process with the Interlace project. From our institute, we wanted to share certain reflections thinking about this specific issue for this specific event. It's rethinking those urban-rural relationships in pro of biodiversity and for the people. For us, it's important. Next slide, please. For us, it's important to be able to begin these reflections and how we work with the territory and how biodiversity, in essence, is a great, great opportunity to begin to weave these urban-rural relationships. It is the moment, or it's the excuse, really, that we can have. And in the last years, the country has rethinking itself as a country to be able to link that biodiversity in the rural settings and that perhaps in the urban settings it wasn't so known before. Today, one way or another, well, it was invisible basically. It was made invisible to be able to manage it. That's how they did in the past. But our cities throughout the years have been becoming settled and have been constructed at the cost of biodiversity and also considering like well looking at more as by service or with negative services that I associated these biodiversity as poverty or elements that today now have a different meaning, now allow us to return and look at this with a different point of view. That's why we talk about rethinking from the humble from the institute. Here I would like to also continue with what Agustin was saying. We have been promoting, and even from a national policy perspective, the ecological restructurization of the territory as a vehicle so that that configuration of the territory will be more sustainable, more friendly, more resilient, and so we can generate these links as a structural element for consolidation of urban systems. So we, in our country, we manage a term called ecological structure, which is, well, very adjusted to the Colombian scene, but really is an ecological network of those relationships that are weaved between the territories, and it should be the structural baseline which we use to plan for cities and how we do our land use planning. And this has history because precisely we began to work with Envigado, this relationship that has been going on for 8 years now, generating or being able to identify that ecological structure in the municipality of Envigado that was initially proposed that it was going to be very urban, but we saw that the relationships between urban and rural and urban and regional is very fundamental to manage this territory. So biodiversity, as many other things, does not have any political borders or any urban or rural jurisdiction. It doesn't recognize borders. It simply occurs in the territory. It has those intrinsic relationships, and it's also affected by what we do within these territories. So these elements are also very important. Let's see them. We try to understand how that biodiversity can actually promote those links between urban and rural by using urban border strategies, so we can generate elements that can actually help us transcend or generate those ways or vias from services and biodiversity, so they can begin to transit from the urban consolidated matrix to the urban soils that are more dispersed. So it's not only about how the city sees biodiversity as resources that they need to consume, like water or food, like the things that are located therein that I don't recognize, but rather how do we incorporate this within the DNA of the common citizen, and how do we begin to work with that DNA? And that's why it's so important to rethink those urban borders or those limits from even the cultural aspects. There are cities or rural citizens which are on the urban borders and they're in a rural environment, but they consider themselves either they're totally related with the urban matrix because of being so close. So this is an opportunity to work from the cultural aspects, those urban rural bonds with biodiversity as a tool. Next slide, please. This is a very, very beautiful element, and we would like to take advantage that we're here in the metropolitan area and that yesterday many of you were able to see how the Valley of Aburrá looks in the metropolitan territory. The Institute is working with the metropolitan Valley of Aburrá area, which Agustin already mentioned. This is an entity, or rather an entity that groups together 10 municipalities in the valley, many of which we have gone through, and Agustin mentioned. From the south, obviously, those that are here after Medellin, those of us who were working to see how to link those green urban areas with connectivity models, with redefining those green urban areas as important, as super important to begin to generate resilience, climate resilience, especially in Medellin and the metropolitan area, have important common contamination problems. And in this sense, it's of great importance. These green areas are so important in the Valley of Aburrá, in Envigado, and in Medellin, and Sabaneta, where many of you are also staying, to begin to check how these areas can be connected amongst each other, how you can evidence or see how you can train some green spaces that are more diverse with greater stratus, with a strength of biodiversity at a multifunctional level that allows cities to begin to adapt to these challenges that climate variability brings us, that we are living at this particular moment. As the mayor said, time is up. So we have certain projects that are very cross-cutting. We have tracking of fauna in the Valley of Aburrá, where we can use cameras and different colors to see how species and wildlife moves around, how we can potentialize this connectivity, and what connectivity do we not want to potentialize, for example. So we also wanted to put some questions up in there. Look, how much should we potentialize connectivity of urban, rural areas of different species? And how do these species, or how can those species reach the urban areas and can also run into different elements that are threats to them? So how much do we really want that tiger to come down toward the consolidation of the urban area, the large area down here from the mountains? How much do we really want that? Or how can we manage or allow to have connectivity in certain sectors, but also ensuring that we don't put the species at risk? So there are elements that it cannot be total, they cannot be seen as isolated factors. We have to look at this in their entire comprehensive context and looking at all the variables that can affect what we want to manage from the urban biodiversity perspective. In the Valley of Aburrá, we have a history which is beautiful of how certain wetlands were generated, or what was the development like of the Valley of Aburrá, and removing the ice of salt or the wetlands that we historically had. And due to urbanization, and just to have, and because we had a wrong vision of what it meant to have these wetlands in the past 100 years back, what they were, urbanization just stomped on them, they blocked them. And somebody was asking, or we heard many questions when we were in the Parques del Rio, on the river park, if there was flooding, if there was any torrential rain and avenues, and effectively there are certain elements that do produce that risk because the wetlands were blocked. So there is no regulation of these water currents that come from the hillsides to downtown. And this can have a very important impact in generating these risks or exposing the population to risks. In this particular case, due to torrential rain or landslides. So it's very important, and these are some of the things. We also we're talking blue-green spaces that we're working with metropolitan area, which is the umbrella for these different research exercises, which are important. And from the Humboldt Institute, how can we actually see that this investigation will effectively advocate for decision making in the territory? Which means, how can a master plan become a binding instrument adopted by norm by an environmental authority, and that it's going to be applied by all 10 municipalities in the metropolitan area, so it has an impact at the urban area, but also at a regional level. Another example, which is also important, is how to begin to generate or produce positive links between the farmlands and cities, between the field and the cities. How can we be able to incorporate it? How do we advocate within the DNA of the citizens so they recognize what they have in the rural settings? This is an example of useful plants that from the Institute, we did some research for these useful plants, which are located in rural contexts, and that were taken a little bit to market plazas. As Agustin already said, here in the municipalities, in Colombia municipalities, we have very important characteristics as we have market plazas in all of our urban areas where we could, where I thought I went to space for a minute. I was in outer space for a minute, where we congregate the productivity of the fields and in those market plazas to be able to bring different useful species that have been forgotten and now have been rescued. They're ancestral plants, and that they were used many years back, but they had been forgotten because they're not commercial, or because they don't know about their use, because people don't know they taste delicious, or because people don't know that they can use it in different dishes. What we did was to rescue those plants and tell people that are in the cities, and the young people and the older adults, the young and the old, that there are certain elements in the rural settings that they don't even know about and can actually be used effectively and linked to the day-to-day in the urban area. And this is a beautiful topic that has been developed from the Institute itself. And next slide, please. We also have certain other binding issues linked to how nature tourism with an urban rural focus can be an opportunity where biodiversity can actually potentialize those urban rural relationships via appropriation by citizens of their rurality and the farmers as well. How as very key stakeholders to get their territories to be known for those that visit from the cities. And finally, in order to finish, I wanted to also reflect. We've already mentioned this in other spaces that the Institute is generating an issue of typologies for cities, but this is not something per se. This is important. How can we have planning and urban design be incorporated into that natural context with the peculiarities of territory in a country such as ours, which is a mega diverse country with multicultures and pluriethnic, where these alternatives that I previously mentioned, or these examples that we check, they're not implemented in the same fashion throughout the different contexts, but rather they have to have based on reality, depending on the context, so that these elements can have success, so that these elements can be embraced and they can have be long lasting. And the most important thing is that the people can take ownership of these processes in the cities and in the territories, and which generally are the people that are going to guarantee the success and the permanence of these elements through time. So thank you very much to everybody. And well, either way, here we leave you the next intervention where we're going to see more elements, and we're going to be very attentive to all of your questions. Thank you so much, Paula. Super interesting. I'm certain that all of you have many, many questions. Now I have the pleasure of inviting to give us a perspective, an international perspective, Dr. David Barton from the Norwegian Research Institute for Nature, which has done multiple research on economic evaluation of ecosystem services and the incorporation of this value and defining public policies for conservation and managing green spaces. David, welcome. Thank you, Natalia. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Envigado, for doing this event. I love being here. I'm very impressed with the work that you're doing. And I'm going to give you an example today. The presentation is. I'm going to give you an example today of something that we're doing in the municipality of Oslo. To begin, I really loved the Paulo's approach, which said that we have to adapt what we do to the local context. So this is an alert, a warning. Agustin said that this is marvelous, that what Norway does is above everything else. I tell you, no. And I wanted to warn you. This is just an example that we developed. It's very sui generis, but the idea perhaps is can be migrated, but the details have to be developed at a local level. And let's see, while they get us set up and interlace, I work with the different aspects of trying to find public policies that promote the sector and integration of nature-based solutions and promoted by the company. A norm that's called the factors, the blue-green factors, that is a tool that is developed, that is co-produced in the companies that are developed and the research as well, in order to promote the integration of nature-based solutions in the sector, in the private sector. So we've called this green blue factors of Oslo, a norm to incorporate nature-based solutions and then urban design at a property level. And this presentation properly complements both previous presentations because we have seen the scale, the rural scale for conservation, peri-urban conception of Agustin. Paula also said how we are incorporated biodiversity as a pillar for planning on the borders. And now we're going to see from within the cities to the outside how the private sector, when they want to develop the expansion soils at an urban setting within the Envigado land use plan or zoning plan, how do we mitigate the damage of the expansion of the urban outwards? And I think this complements your presentation. Oslo is a municipality. Well, this is the capital of Norway, obviously, but it's relatively small. It's only 800,000 inhabitants. I'm going to speak about motivation first. As Paula said, that the development of the green structures and planning aids Colombian biodiversity. Well, in Oslo, I have to tell you that it's managing our current. You don't see it here, but there's buildings here. And with climate change and future climate change, we're going to have more water, more intensely in that part of the world where we live. The municipality is super worried about organizing the city to face this coming water. That is the political impulse to develop these norms. However, that impulse we can add access elements as well for the environment and to green amenities, to public health, recreation as well, and also biological corridors. But the political impulse is climate adaptation. That is what we can do with a political concept. And I think it's important to give you a little bit of the climate context, ecological context of the cities, which influences on the political consensus. And also, I wanted to give you this timeline to tell everybody that it's super important to not take just something from somewhere else and impose it in your city. That's the message today from Interlace, that we have to have co-production. And that norm came inspired by cities like Berlin, Malmo, Stockholm, and Sweden in the 1990s. The architects, the landscape architects in Norway and in Oslo, they told us, hey, as landscape architects, they always ask us things at the end of the project. Why? So we cannot incorporate ecological designs since the beginning. We want a methodology where they include us in the planning of green structures from the very beginning. So with different developers, with different consultants, with the academic sector, and with two municipalities, they developed a methodology called the Green Blue Factor in 2014. Then it matured for 4 years, and in 2018, the municipality itself of Oslo, they had their own version. They created their own versions with their own technical people, and they put it out for public consultation. A year later, it was proposed and adopted by the municipal council as a voluntary norm, telling us that in 2 years we're going to check this precisely with the sectors, and we're going to adjust and change what does not work. So this last thing came up, and that was just given a month ago by the municipal council. In the meantime, at a national level, the Institute of Standards for Norway, which develops commercial standards, they created a standard for the blue-green standard that any municipality in the country could adopt, and any developer can actually look at to standardize their public tender processes. So we have two things here. The process of adaptation and co-creation and testing and adjusting takes a decade or more, from the inspiration to the implementation phase. So the message of co-designing is very important. So the project in general.
So we're going to see how it works. Those mechanics is basically a calculation sheet where nature-based solutions is what we have negotiated with the sector, and we concluded with relatively simple elements that can be calculated in a simple works design. We recognize connectivity, a blue-green connectivity. You get points, and this is scored, and these are calculated, and a multiplier is calculated. We have green areas, we have green roofs. The deeper the soil, the more points you get for these green roofs. We also have green walls, rain gardens, water mirrors, water depressions, and plant channels that channel the water and at the same time filter it and provide a semi-aquatic. We have semi-permeable, such as in garages. In other words, using bricks that are permeable, provides us course. We also have connectivity of roofs and for rain waters to be collected in different areas, and we also gave points to preserving existing trees. If they have to be replaced, they have to be replaced, and well, scores are given, points are given for all of this. And again, this is based in negotiations with the sector, and you have to reach a minimum scores to have approval of your construction permit. So one example, for instance, in the peri urban area, where in one mix of, again, institutions, this is an institution, this is a housing development, and this is a senior home citizen, they want to extend it and they're planning to design it. And architects and landscape architects have designed it with green roofs, with existing trees, with new trees, with rain gardens, with sands gardens, with plenty of flowers and so on. And all this is calculated and included in this Excel spreadsheet. And the green blue factor is calculated. Next point. So again, figures go into the Excel spreadsheet. The weighted average are calculated, and then we determine, or we learn that this blue-green factor is 0.9, and if this again indicates or enables determining if licenses are given for construction plans or not. In the master plan, the city's master plan, that is, we have areas in which we have the minimums applicable. In the dense urban center, the minimum is 0.7. In the peri-urban area, the minimum EGF is 0.8. Again, more green, more can be accomplished on the country, on the periphery. And this was approved just a month ago. So again, all these scores are calculated. This is 0.9, and 0.9 is above the minimum required for the area, and that again uh, indicates if licenses for construction are given or not. Again, so there are other compliance, other requirements that have to be complied with. In this instrument, again, I also mentioned that it is revised every 2 years, and through it, we refine the differentiation of minimums in the master plan. Now we have to keep in mind that we have to be more ambitious in the peri-urban side. So here we also have differences in regards to the uses: residential, education, culture and sports, offices, buildings with combined infrastructure, the next categories, industry and storage, or stores, and system extends also to road works that belong to the municipality as well. So again, there's a minimum PGF blue green factor score required that changes based on the possibilities of the range. So again, it is a differentiated minimum that is the result of revisions of this system. And again, this fits inside the master plan, which is also undergoing current consultation to be approved, authorized next year, and to last until 2040. So this was it for me. Very brief presentation, but I think it complements the other presentations quite well with regards to speaking about the territory. We have additional information that we can share in different documents, and in which you can find more about this document, the document itself, and many other things. Thank you. Thank you, David. Quite inspiring inspiration, quite inspiring presentation. If anybody else has any other questions so far, I have received only two of your papers with questions, but we have Adia and Juan Carlos helping me collect others. But let's begin with the two questions that I have so far. Uh, this doesn't really say who it is for, but I am going to. I am going to read the question. So the question reads, what authorities and at what government level intervene in the declaration of protected areas in Colombia? The question is for Paula. There are different levels of authorities depending on the protected area. If it is a national protected or a protected area at national level, viability and authorization is given by the national government. For instance, we have national natural parks. National and natural parks are the most frequently protected areas at national park. For Agustin's specific case, well, in the country, we have an issue or a thing with local or urban protected areas, and that is that there is no necessary document of including or for including those protected areas. However, local environmental authorities and the municipalities, they can co-create, or they can, in other words, undergo a filter to identify the different conservation objectives of the protected area, also to identify the measures to be proposed for that protected area, and they also revise the characteristics of the territory to be defined as a protected area. And then the environmental authority at the required level makes the formal declaration. However, in our country, there are other examples, other cases that are outside, that do not fit the what's typical, that are not inside our regulations, because protected areas in those cases are declared by the municipalities themselves. So in that case, the municipality is responsible for resources, for management, and so on of those self-declared protected areas. And there are also regional protected areas. Regional protected areas, for those we have autonomous corporations and corporations for sustainable development. These are corporations that have or include many different departments, and they are the ones that do the declaration. In this case, they consult the Humboldt Institute technically to provide a concept about those areas. However, the Humboldt Institute is not an environmental authority, and yet it only produces concepts or determinations. And and looks at the viability or not. I would like to complement the following information with regards to Envigado. Envigado made that decision, as Paula mentioned. We could not join the national system, but Envigado, in its land zoning plan of 2011, made that decision. They decided this is our solution for our ecological structure. So after that, we implemented an agreement. And well, the thing is that national standard or national law somehow do not promote local protected areas. You want to join their system, and they say, no, you're not part. You cannot be part. So it sort of like demotes our participation. So they developed other mechanisms for conservation, which is a different rule or a different mechanism because, again, it's not stimulating for a municipality to want to join and be rejected. Well, thank you for that lesson on Colombian zoning regulations. Now we're going to have or ask two questions for David. David, hopefully you will be able to link these two questions. The first one is what are the priority criteria for landscaping and how is it related for systems for protecting ecosystems and biodiversity? And the other question is the methodology. Do you consider building and energy materials? Well, thank you very much for both the questions. With regards to the first question, landscape elements and how they connect with ecosystemic services, well, the connection is implicit in the type of a structure that is selected to give scores or to give a points to. And again, the scores given to the different structures reflect the importance of the structure for different ecosystemic services. Again, as I mentioned, the main axis of the system might be to handle rainwaters. So the highest scores for that specific work would be related to the management of rainwaters. In addition, access to recreation, access to green areas, or being exposed to green areas also carries a heavy weight. Therefore, green walls and trees receive heavy scores, and also we give a lot of high scores to the habitat potential. So prioritizing large existing trees, not cutting them when construction takes place, again, receives a lot of scores. Also, soil depth receives a high scores also, having or enabling different species. But again, this is not designed at a detail level. Landscape architects receive plenty of freedom to, but there is a minimum. So it is a flexible minimum, and the idea is not to have too many details, so it can be adapted by many. And what was the second question, please? The second question is with regards to the BGF. Again, the question is if the scores are given for water or construction inputs. Well, the inputs are not really calculated, but there are other certification systems such as GREEM or LEED systems that award energy efficiency, water efficiency. So the BGF, it's just a minimum for those that want to be super efficient, for those that want to reduce or calculate their ecological footprint. And again, there are other certification systems that can be accessed. So again, a good urban developer can certify his or her project in different certification systems, and improvements go beyond this BGF. I would like to compliment Envigado. It shows that connectivity is fundamental, so that green factor for Envigado would be trying to have connectivity in all these systems. Everything else would work, landscaping, and so on. So again, Norway's is not Envigado's solution. Again, there they have different routes, so water is a more relevant element to be included in regulations. And thanks for the question. We have a question that came in through the chat. I'm going to read it in English, and it reads as follows.
I have a question based on the talk of Paola Morales, but anyone can give input or an answer. In managing the benefits and potential disservices, example, perceived threat from certain animals that live in or travel through connected urban-rural green spaces, how to balance the level of wildness or natural versus man-made elements in urban and urban-rural connected green spaces.
Well, I hope that I understood the question properly. I think that there is plenty of research that is still needed with regards to the different alternatives to be able to reach that balance between the urban matrix and the biodiversity that could live in that urban matrix. However, in our country, we have developed and implemented strategies for that wildlife to be in the urban matrix. Again, not all the wildlife, because some wildlife requires other types of connections. For instance, more ground wildlife that would have to cross to the streets. But there are bridges, for instance, or elements that sometimes hang in post light post or different columns, and um, wildlife could use those to access or to leave the urban matrix. However, this was part of my reflection during my presentation, because I believe that in Colombia we have different planning theories and environmental design theories that promote, that openly promote an open access from the wildlife into the urban matrix, and that is sort of like their objective. But the question is, how can we evidence through research what elements can we foster or promote for some wildlife to go into the urban matrix, and what are the other things or paths that we can identify for wildlife that moves more at the peri-urban level without going into the urban matrix? So to conclude my answer, yes, we still require more research. We require to learn more as to how species move in the urban matrix, so these strategies and this balance between what's gray and what's green can be more efficient in our ecological urban design. Well, thank you, Paola. Now I have two questions for Agustin, and at the end we are going to ask the three of you a question, and we will have a final reflection to conclude. Anyway, if we cannot read your questions, I'm going to pass on your questions to the panel members, and then I invite you to converse or have a conversation with them. Agustin, can you please explain to us how those good practices that you have been talking about and presenting to us about biodiversity and the management of ecosystems and nature-based solutions are being included in the local agenda, in local politics? That is the first question. And the second is not really a question, it's more like a reflection. How is Envigado motivating agricultural producers to partake in these initiatives and to promote appropriation? Who asked the first question? I want to judge you. The first question is with regards to what has been implemented or to the future. The person that has the first question is still here. Refers to what's existing. Again, how has it been done? Well, Envigado made a decision in its land zoning plan to preserve its environment through protected areas. In Colombia and in other places, it is basic decree or agreement 09, blah, 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 and then that agreement is filed and it doesn't work. And in Colombia, we have many, many examples that are horrible examples. For Envigado to be able to be where it is with regards to management, there were 6 reasons that enabled us to materialize these protected areas. Again, seeing biodiversity, documenting, living it, producing indicators of felines, goods and services, pollination, and so on. There's also we need a biodiversity that is understood by our administrators. That's something that we have to work on. That can be understood by our communities. This is why we talk with the communities and ask them if they want these biodetection cameras, and they said yes, and they love these cameras because they now see that there's pumas, biodiversity, lost biodiversity, so it has to be restored. We have to see where it is restored so we can make decisions where on the roads, where we need to find, say, and build bridges for fauna to go up on the road. Another ideal thing is to develop subterranean structures so amphibians and other species can go through. That's the easiest part, but that's not common in Colombia. The next part is appropriation. We have to show this in similar events. We have to produce manuals, guidelines, and so on. We have to work on this constantly for people to fall in love and appropriate these things. Also, the new administrators, the new government, that is basic. Hopefully, our next administrators are going to receive this information and determine to consolidate the system as protected areas, as Sara suggested to the mayor this morning. Yes, indeed, good. We have to tell that to the next mayor. We have to do this and that, monitoring biodiversity and so on. Fourth part is with regards to restoration. We have to speak with the private sector. Most of these areas are privately owned, and we can tell them we can give you the trees planted for you, helping clean it, and so on. So we have to convince these private owners because we're different from Norway. In Norway, owners themselves know what they need. They need infiltration, green trees, and so on, so they can receive the proper score and receive permits to have a good or a proper housing development, which is what we need in the Valle del Urra. Fifth element is with regards to what's regional. Yes, we have worked with the metropolitan area, of Antioquia, and other environmental authorities and national parks. We're a small municipality, but they all trust us. And again, they're always wanting to support the Envigado. We are the only municipality that is part of the system. And sixth, I forgot what the sixth item was. Right, with regards to land zoning plans, it is very important for these land zoning plans to have synergy. In Envigado, we're adjusting all these small details. However, we have protection soils, and we now understand that we can use the territory, but we have to do it properly. And what was the second question? If you want to, we can answer the second question during your coffee time. I want to conclude this with a common question, a question that might be inspiring, that we can use for concluding the panel. For the three of you, use one sentence or maximum two to answer the following. How can we make people love nature? Should I start? Okay. I think that it is basic to have two concepts. The first one is for that person to understand biodiversity in your own neighborhood, butterflies that lay eggs, this or that, understand how nature works and understand that there's biodiversity. You hear many people simply saying that bees have to be taken care of, but it is not only bees, it's pollinizers, but not only pollinizers, also the insects are pollinizers, and so on. All this has to be understood, and they have to partake themselves to fall in love. Well, in one word, I would say live it. Live nature. Yesterday we saw it, and it is different if we see it from here versus going into the river and putting our feet in the water. It's so we need to take our children and young men and women to nature more so they can live it and enjoy it. And I'm going to say something that is different. We need to normalize it, not in the term of creating laws, but instead of having consensus conversations to understand our common values and to also have authorities as much as possible to codify those norms. So as a group, we can have different referrals or references as to what is the minimum expected in terms of stewardship and protection. Again, to know what is the minimum that is expected from me as a citizen. I might not agree with everything, but I need to know what this minimum behavior that is expected from me is. So I think that the final word is to connect. I think connect includes all these different things. That is the spirit of Interlace, to connect. Thank you, everyone. Please let's give our panel members a round of applause. Thank you. Hopefully this was a panel that you enjoyed, and hopefully you're taking some of this information with you home. We'll continue speaking, and I will share the other questions with the panel members, those that I could not read, and thank you. Well, once again, thanks Natalia, thanks Paola, thanks David, and thanks Agustin for your participation, for your reflections, very fundamental reflections, especially if we consider that Latin America is the second most urbanized region in the world. 80% of its population lives in urban areas, and this process of urbanization continues growing. Now we're going to continue sharing experiences and learnings from these cities that participate in the Interlace project. But before this, we're going to do something that is very important for the project itself, and that is that, again, one of the objectives is to create a community of practice, in other words, a group of actors in all the areas where the project is, which is the Americas and Europe. That is why every year we invite new cities to partake and to sign a commitment for the restoration of urban ecosystems. So we would like to invite the new cities that are joining us to sign this protocol. And for this, we give the word to Juan Carlos Uribe, who works with United Local Governments. Thank you, Adi. And continuing with Agustin's words, the idea for what we're doing today is to connect and the community of practice. And again, cities talk nature has this objective, creating a community of practice aiming to generate knowledge and foster exchanges on this on exchanges on how to create sustainable and habitable cities through restoration, rehabilitation, or reconnection of urban ecosystems through the use of nature-based solutions. So far, we have 30 cities that have joined this community: Colombia, Ecuador, in Colombia, Costa Rica, Spain, Germany, Poland, also in Chile, Puerto Rico, and many other cities, many other countries. I'm not going to read them all. And today we're going to include or bring in an additional 7 cities. But what does this mean? Bringing in, joining in those cities that join in, sign a commitment later to partake in the community. So the commitment is to actively participate in mutual exchanges, in events, in cities, sport, nature, or other webinars 4 times a year, inviting other cities to share their practices and to work with different entities that work with NBS is also to share their best practices. What you find in the Interlace Hub or in the urban governance that David presented. Part of this commitment is also to support nature, to promote shared places by people, a share between people and biodiversity, and to strengthen the connection between people and their natural environment. And this is what we were saying at the end of the panel. And also to adopt, promote, and support nature-based solutions in their local government policies. And with this, we're going to bring in the 7 cities that are here to join us today. Some of them were here yesterday. Some are not here. Some are not here or online, but they sent us a signed letter. So those who are present here today, I would like to invite you to come to the front of the room, please. I think that the only one that hasn't signed is Uvate. If you want to sign this today, you can do it today. Uvate again. You can sign it today or you can send it signed. And in 1 minute, I'm going to ask you why it is important for your city to join this community. Let's begin with the metropolitan area of Bucaramanga, please. Well, good morning, everyone. On behalf of Cesar Camilo Hernandez, our director, kind greetings. He couldn't be here today. However, the metropolitan area of Bucaramanga is present, signing this document of cities for nature. It's not only the metropolitan area of Bucaramanga, which includes 4 municipalities, Bucaramanga, Girón, Florida Blanca, and Piedecuesta. Those are the 4 municipalities, and I believe that in the framework of all the actions that we are developing as the metropolitan area, it's important for us to sign this agreement of cities for nation because we're fully convinced that we can do a lot more than what we are currently doing. Currently, we are working hard on what has been mentioned before, governance documents, mostly that we know are the documents that are going to help us plan and organize our territory, and which are going to guide us to generate projects to implement and protect our ecosystems. Therefore, for the metropolitan area of Bucaramanga, it is a pleasure to be part of this commitment. Thank you very much. Thank you. In just a little bit, we're going to take a group photograph. So if you can please wait nearby so we can take a group photograph with the letters. For those of you that want to sign them, well, we have letters for everyone and you can sign them out here in the front. Like you Philippines, they're not here with us today and they're not online either due to time differences, but they're very much interested in bringing this community beyond Europe and Latin America, in other words, into Pacific Asia. Now I would like to invite Cuenca, Ecuador. They are with us today. Well, good morning, everyone. I would like to thank all of you for this invitation. My name is Manuel Alvarado. I am from Cuenca, Ecuador, and I represent our mayor and all the citizens who are paying close attention to all these programs. I would like to thank you for enabling us to be part of this important project and for enabling us to share these important experiences that we have also been working on through our Itapa enterprise. Itapa is for conservation, taking care of the environment, and for providing water for our city. So I'm here willing to help you with anything I can help you with, and I'm very happy with the tour yesterday. Quite grateful to all of you. Now I'm going to continue with Porto Alegre, Brazil. Good morning. Happy to be here in this important event. Porto Alegre. Again, I'm not a Portuguese speaker, but I'll translate what I understand. We have been working on agricultural areas, and today we formalize our role. But this is something that we have been doing for a while, and with this, thank you so much. If you can please sign the letter. So the city of Cuenca and Porto Alegre are going to partake in the pair learning activity that we're going to be doing later, and you will learn more about them if you join their group. Now, Temuco, Chile could not be with us today. They were here with us yesterday morning, and the councilwoman spoke to us yesterday, so we're going to continue with the mayor from Tilaran, or the delegation from Tilaran, Costa Rica. Welcome, and please let's give the mayor a round of applause. Well, good morning, everyone. Unfortunately, I am a little bit sick. I have a bit of a cold, but we wanted to be here. As many of you know, our country has been a referral for natural issues due to the many legislation that we have had in the past. Our four administrators have made very good decisions with regards to natural topics for Costa Rica, and now for us in Tilaran, it is very important to be able to sign this letter of intentions with the objective of being able to guide our land regulation plans a little bit better. We're currently working on that plan, and based on all the experience that we have learned here, we are going to be able to guide this much better with regards to the decision making that is going to follow. So yes, indeed, thank you very much, and we're here to serve you with anything we can. Thank you. If you can please sign the letter. I can somewhat confirm, but we will invite Villa de San Diego as well in Colombia, Villa de San Diego Innovate, who recently decided to join us based on all the momentum of the past few days. Well, on behalf of Mayor Jaime Suarez Torres and the Planning Director Camilo Maya, they couldn't be here, unfortunately, because as you know, right now they are preparing for the next administration. But on behalf of the people from Uvate, 50,000 inhabitants live in the Uvate territory. Again, on behalf of them, we're pleased to add one more territory to this global strategies that you're executing and working on. And again, we all feel proud, or they feel proud, to be part of this organization and to be part of this lifestyle and to be part of this way of understanding the world with regards to the intention of building cities in a different way. And with this, thank you so much. Can you sign on their behalf? He says he'll bring the document, but he's asking him to take the letter and be part of the group of photograph. Agustin mentioned that there are, if you can please come up and say it yourself, Agustin. Again, 3 cities from Ecuador. If those 3 cities can please come up to the room, Pichincha, Santa Elena, and Imbaura, and Guayaquil. If you can please come up to the front of the room. And again, it brings a lot of happiness. It makes us very happy that you became inspired through this exchange and decided to join the protocol and sign the commitment letter. Please come up and sign with us. If you want to sign the letter right here on the podium, please come up. You can sign on behalf of the authority. Good morning, everyone. Indeed, for Ecuador and for Pichincha, Pichincha is part of the city of Quito, as part of the 53 parish governments in Ecuador are the smallest administration or government level in our decentralized country, and I represent the 53 sectors. My colleagues next to me are also representatives of the different parish, and we decided to participate through FLACMA and now to sign this intention letter, especially for Pichincha, to protect the sector of Choco Andino. You have probably heard that since 2018, Chocó Andino declared a declaration through UNESCO as a biosphere reservoir. So through this agreement, I think we're going to be above the projections that we have for Ecuador and above Latin America as the best biosphere reservoir, which contains plenty of wildlife in our country, in which we are protecting. Again, thanks for welcoming us, and we're quite happy time. Now, I would like to give the word to your colleagues while you sign the letter. Good morning, everyone. As an Ecuadorian, I'm very pleased to have taken part in this beautiful meeting. By nature, we are nature lovers. My son is the administrator of a reservoir, Manglare Churute Ecological Reservoir, where we protect birds and where we protect nature in general. So once again, I am quite pleased to participate in this fabulous meeting and have a wonderful day. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the invitation. My name is Italo Cacao. I am the representative of the rural governments of the province of Santa Elena. To tell you a little bit about the province of Santa Elena, we are on the coastal profile. We have beaches, and 20 to 30 kilometers from our beaches, we have the Chongoncoji mountain range, which houses a huge reservoir of flora and fauna. And we do plenty of work in conservation through our rural governments, because rural governments are the closest governments to the communities. Furthermore, we have developed a system for the conservation of flora and fauna to first be able to train the community and to incentivize the communities to conservation and protection of their forests and of their beaches, and also to help them earn create resources, but again, because they are not using their lands, and we believe they should receive some resources for conservation, and also the idea is to work on ecotourism. Again, I'm quite happy to be here. I'm going back to my country quite happy for all the learnings, and this agreement is going to be quite helpful for the province of Santa Elena, for Ecuador as a whole. Thank you. So first of all, good morning, everyone. My name is Daniel Godinho Acosta, and I represent the 36 parish boards or autonomous governments, rural parish governments of Imbabura. To give you the context, Imbabura is located on the Sierra, Valle del Chota, soccer is big there, and also for our culture and tradition and our rhythm. As you can see, I represent Afro-Equatorians, and I'm quite happy to represent Afro-Equatorians. And in my presentations, I always say that we have a tremendous interculturality in Imbabura. We have lakes, we also have the Paramo, and through the different parish governments and the different parish administrators, we have taken care of our biodiversity, both in terms of fauna and flora. So for Ecuador, for Imbabura, and for the Afro-Equatorians, I leave quite happy of having been here. Again, good day, everyone.
Thank you very much to each and every one of you for participating in this exchange. I really thank you for, if you come back and I was passing through this different groups, and you had very amazing discussions also online. They were actually discussing quite a bit of the practices. So please, let's pay attention. We're going to lunch soon, so please have a seat and let's listen to the lessons learned from these learning amongst peers. The group from the back, please join the session. Please come near the rest of the participants. And if we can have the people that are online as well from Zoom, let's put them up on the screen so we can see them as well. And well, before, thank you so much. Great. One, now we see you. Now they hear us. Thank you so much for participating in this learning amongst peers. We had many more practices than we expected when we began to organize this event. So we were a bit worried about the space, but I'm so happy to see this great discussion that all of you had and that this space really worked. That I'm sure that you were listening to different conversations and different presentations. I am going to begin with group number one. So please share, as I told you, one or two lessons learned, two key lessons learned. I know that we had many discussions in each group, but I ask you to be very specific in these one or two recommendations that you came from your practices and sharing the different lessons learned. So we're going to have those 5 people from the groups here, plus we're going to invite the people online to share their learnings. From group number one, who's going to accompany us from group one? The group from Sibima, Jada, and Envigado. Very well. We're the citizens group. You made it difficult for us that it's only 2 of us, but well, only two key points, but we'll try to be as concrete as possible. The most important thing that we saw in every single case was to be able to value all the citizens' works, all the different participants groups, but especially for the local government to recognize the citizens' work, but how that process actually works, that transparency process of recognizing how you prioritize and what groups are supported, and all of the information that actually can be generated from citizen sciences and from working in networks and collaboration, and how this can be useful for decision making within our land use plans from the territory. And we thought that this was fundamental. Another thing, amongst the examples, we saw how we also involve children and schools as well within our renaturalization processes, and how this can actually have a long-term advantage as well, having an effect on the curriculums within schools, and not only curriculums, but also in involving everybody. And the second part really was related to the budget. The budget is key, and budget anchored on the municipal exercise as a response to the citizens' needs with this work that is growing. Thank you so much. Now let's invite group number 2 right now, the group to the left on the back, whom is going to share their experiences. This is the group from Cuenca, Silape, and from, I can't remember who the other third organization was, and Bogota, yeah, the third city, Cuenca, Silape, and Bogota. Very good day to everybody. My name is Angel Freire from Milagro, Ecuador, representing different private initiatives and decorations Freire. Very well. After what we discussed within the group, after our discussion, we can highlight 2 recommendations or 2 learnings that we believe are fundamental. The first is the commitment and the involvement of municipalities in conservation efforts. It's completely fundamental for local authorities to begin to issue norms to protect and conserve our ecosystems. And in this particular case, the different native species and umbrella species as well, and from our water resources as well. In the case of Envigado, we were able to see this. We actually got to witness this in person, how they've structured the local protected area systems. So for us, this is an extremely important example to follow. And the same thing with the city of Cuenca. As an Ecuadorian myself, I've been able to observe myself, and we've been able to share the different experiences throughout the years that the municipality does for protection of our water resources, being the city of Cuenca one of the cities with the best levels of potable water for human consumption, actually, and which is fundamental to highlight as well. A second recommendation or lessons that we can actually, that we are able to discuss is related to the participation of the academic sector to strengthen capacities for citizens, of the citizens, and obviously also for the protection of our natural resources at a regional level and at a world level. So for universities to be able to actually take that knowledge and take them to local communities, take that knowledge so that they can understand and know exactly what should be protected and what should be conserved in order to guarantee sustainability of all of the resources that we enjoy in our surroundings. So taking these citizens sciences towards the most basic levels of our society, that's fundamental. And the role of universities and the academic sector at every level, really, from the citizens all the way up to the decision makers levels, is completely important. And also, we can highlight this as the second lesson learned or the second experience learned that we can actually work with in our places of origins and in our day to day. Thank you so much. Thank you, and what an interesting thing to see that in both groups, the role of citizens are very important, recognizing the processes of citizens themselves, but also linking it to the scientific citizenship and all of these processes, like providing knowledge, but also recognizing the knowledge that they have and the leadership that they have. In fact, without the role of the municipalities and and the universities. So making those connections between academic sectors, communities, and municipalities, I think that's a key lesson that we're sharing from all of these lessons learned. Let's go now to the bottom group back there, which would be Tilarán, Envigado Florece, Envigado Flourishes, and Porto Viejo. Who's going to share these lessons learned?
Please go ahead. If you want to please introduce yourself quickly. Good morning, Estefania Vega is my name. I'm from Porto Viejo. In our group, we analyzed and spoke about these experiences that came from Costa Rica, from Envigado, and from Porto Viejo. An important reflection was with regards to the role of public policy. For all of us, it is. For all of us, we have always thought that public policy are basically guidelines that allow us to direct the cities, but unfortunately they have always come from the top to the bottom or from the top down. And what we believe is that public policies need to be motivated by the bottom, by the basis, by the communities, with the idea of empowering or having an empowerment of territorial leaders. A second reflection is with regards to the bonds or linkages that exist among the different territorial actors in the different government levels and with the different actors, in this case the municipality, the academia, and the private sector. We all have an important role in the city. And likewise, from with regards to changing the vision, with regards to urban development, our design unit would be the plot. However, we need to go beyond this. We need to stop thinking about the plot of land itself, and we need to think about polygons of intervention. And with regards to territorial development, also we need to change the scale. We need to stop thinking about our jurisdiction as a municipality, and instead we need to articulate with our neighboring municipalities so we can strengthen networks of cities. And a third contribution that is very relevant is with regards to community appropriation and knowledge management. So again, this co-responsibility is important. We need to be able to generate through the different projects that we have. We need to generate this co-responsibility. And with this, thank you very much. And one more thing, one more contribution. All these efforts that we are conducting add up. So at the end of the day, again, all these things contribute, and this is great work, and we should bring this to other actors and to other territorial actors. And with this group, when I was forming that group, I wasn't sure if the different initiatives worked with each other, because one part was about waste management, the other part was about planting, but it is important to see the different connections and in a municipality and how to close those bonds so it becomes a more circular economy, and so we support other processes in the departments. Now I'm going to invite the group in the back to the right, and then we're going to continue with those who are attending online, whoever is going to share their practice. So we're going to go to the group that discussed in English, and I think are you going to speak in English or in Spanish? In English, she responds.
In English. In English. So I'm Doris Knoblauch from Ecologic Institute, and we were the group discussing the blue pearls from Berlin, and the green belt Pleißenbach in Chemnitz, and the bicycle park of the Vistula River in Poland. Three lessons that we wanted to share with you. What we said, and maybe I start from the back, is that monitoring and evaluation are key. They can and should be improved, and that was true for all of the three cities. The next point is that funding, we heard it from other groups already. We said that funding is key, but we also said that it would be good to look for new funding opportunities, for instance, private investments, private investors, or also compensation schemes. And then we said that it would be good to consider the city as a landscape, so not focus on single projects, but see the broader picture. And this is, I think, quite nicely in line with the connectivity aspects that we have heard this morning already. And in this regard, we also said that the municipality should focus on land management, and for that, the municipality also has to be the land owner. So sometimes it is necessary to buy land or to buy land back. We had more lessons learned, but I will keep that for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that it is very interesting to see how from these specific projects, we again see the macro landscape and the cities, including all the different ecosystems. Thank you very much. And I do know that each group has additional lessons learned. Facilitators are going to capture that information through the notes that we are taking. So do not worry, they are going to be included in the report. Now we're going to continue with our online participants. Who is going to be presenting? Diego? Yes, very good afternoon. The online discussion included two experiences, La Paz and Parque Orla in Italy, Brazil. And I believe that the summary of the recommendations or key ideas are the following. First is that we believe it is important to recover public spaces with a visionary perspective so we can transform realities. Again, this is a central element in both of the presentations that we shared. Then another recommendation is to see innovation, environmental justice, social responsibility, nature-based solutions, monitoring indicators, follow-up indicators. These are all tools that enable us to change those realities precisely. Of course, as part of this, and something that has been mentioned in other groups before, is that all these solutions, all this work, all these projects that relate to the environment cannot be separated from citizens' responsibility and from citizens' responsibility again. So engagement, it's another central element of this. And to close this summary, it is important to keep in mind that our actions, public actions, are linked to transforming the life of people. So I would like to close with a sentence of one of the residents in Interlace in this recovery process of Orla Parateniga Park. She mentioned that there was nothing there before and now there is life. And I think that's the main summary of all these actions. Again, the idea is to work from the public sector to transform the lives of people. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you for connecting with the title of this conference. Yes, I do know that there's a group left. again, but people and biodiversity, and the importance of keeping in mind that although many of us here are nature lovers and we speak about communities a lot, but we have to keep in mind that this is for the benefit of communities, benefit of people, for the life of people, and for our life as part of nature. We're going to continue with the last group. Of course, I have not forgotten you, but I simply wanted to make sure that the technical part was going to group. The last group is Porto Alegre, Granollers, and Uvate. Who's going to present your group? Please introduce quickly and share the lessons learned. Good morning, I'm Claudia Mistelli. I represent the Nature of Cities. I'm also a participant, and I'm quite inspired after hearing all these projects. These projects to me are also relatively or are very new. So in our group, we had three cities, one in Catalonia, one in Brazil, and one in Colombia. And this our group focused mostly on agriculture and on the rural agricultural connection. So in our group we found three key aspects that and actually cross-cutting aspects, three of them. The first one is with regards to the importance of communication. In addition to creating documents that are easy to read, concise, and that work on the topic of good agro-rural practices, to share this with the political sector. So, in other words, communication elements in programs that are easy to read, for instance, that have key aspects, key points, and that communicate the economic benefits, the social benefits that might inspire all these good practices that are being generated by all these projects. So, in other words, it is for politicians to know and understand the benefits, right? The second recommendation is with regards to including in land zoning plans to include sustainable tourism as an engine. In other words, to not see agriculture as something that is not connected. Instead, it should be seen as another engine for the economy and an engine for values. And tourism should be included there, such as the coffee landscapes and other experiences. And another, or a third point, is with regards to the again agricultural sector and with regards to food security. Again, that is an opportunity for local development, and we believe that it should be the concept of landscapes that can provide the territories and those who live in the territories and those who are new in the territories, to give them a sense of belonging, a sense of appropriation of those territories. So it's sort of like this polyedric concept of landscapes can also be included in the agricultural sector. And with this, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all for this exchange. The best part is that we can continue speaking about this during lunch. We can continue these conversations during lunch again. We can continue with the debate, with the questions, and again, those participants who are with us online, I would like to remind you that the posters of all these practices are available online. Likewise, those of you who are present today, remember these posters with regards to the practices are in the back. And before I conclude, I would also like to announce that I just received a response from Niterói. Niterói indicated that they're going to join these practices of citizens for nature. So we have one more city that just joined our group. And again, with this, we are closing this activity of peer learning. And I would like to give the word to Adi and then to the Envigado team for logistics. Yeah, let's work. Let's go directly to the Envigado team so we can have the logistics for lunch. Okay. First of all, before logistics, before logistics, we're closing the online transmission. Thank you very much for being online. And now we would like to invite you to the online exhibit. If you haven't visited this online tour, again, there are different videos of what we saw yesterday in Envigado on the website. So you guys are welcome to visit the website and to learn about what the Envigado team has presented for us today. There are two things that I would like to mention to you before you leave. If you're interested in the bird watching tour, you need to register. We need to know if there are enough people interested in this activity or not. It would be tomorrow early morning. Uh, but again, you would have to register with or those who are outside. And another thing, the idea is to also have a tour tomorrow to visit different things along the Medellin River and then to go to the downtown to see some natural elements. Again, we're planning this tour to begin at 9 in the morning until 1:30 in the afternoon. But if you want to partake, it is important for you to register in that as well to see if we require buses or if there is no interest in this activity. Again, that would be the second possibility is to see nature-related things on the Valley de Aburrá from 9 in the morning to approximately 1 p.m. But again, if you're interested, please register so we can program the necessary logistics for it. Again, based on the announcement that I made, again, some are thinking that the event just concluded here, but that's not the case. The online transmission concluded, but for those of you who are on site, we're going to continue with workshops in the afternoon. We're going to learn about the use of Minecraft to design spaces with children. We're also going to learn about a solution for nature-based solutions in urban sectors. We're also going to speak about governance in urban rural sectors. We're also going to have a workshop on regenerative cultures. And we're going to have a hands-on workshop in which you will be planting and learning from Envigado Flores in a very active way. In other words, some of you will be going out to plant in some of the areas where the city is planting. Thank you, Juan. Well, right now we're going to take a group photograph, but it's not going to be in this room. We're going to go outside. Camilo, please. Oh, Camilo's right next to me. Camilo is our delegated photographer. He's been with us for the past 2 days. Camilo is suggesting for us to walk outside the place that I was pointing to my right. But please, let's be organized and listen to Camilo so we can have a good photograph. Yes, the idea is to go out, move to the left, it's quite sunny today, so the idea is to be as agile as fast as possible so you can continue with lunch. So again, we have other logistics people that are going to help us with this photograph. And that is the second good news. After this group photograph, we're going to have lunch. And bon appetit, everyone. Lunch is going to take place on the terrace. As soon as you come out, you move to my left is this terrace. When you come out, you move to the right and you will see the terrace and you will see the tables for lunch. If you do not